Hey everyone! Before we begin, I have one small request. If emotional love stories are your thing, stories that evoke feelings, thoughts, and a genuine sense of connection, please subscribe. It's the best way to support this channel and ensure you never miss a story. He slammed the contract down on the folding table so hard the metal legs rattled against the scuffed tile floor. "Name your price," Harrison Whitmore said, his jaw tight, blue eyes fixed on the woman standing across from him. Children's laughter echoed faintly from the hallway, but inside the multi-purpose room of the Horizon Youth Center, the air had gone still. Dr. Amara Bennett didn't flinch. The afternoon sun filtered through tall windows, casting warm light across her brown skin and natural curls. She wore simple slacks and a green blouse, sleeves rolled from a long day mentoring teenagers. "It's not for sale," she replied calmly. Harrison blinked once, as if he hadn't heard correctly. "Everything is for sale, Dr. Bennett. You just haven't seen the right number yet." She folded her arms. "Mr. Whitmore, this building isn't a stock option. It isn't a condo downtown. It's a safe place for kids who don't have one. So no, there isn't a number." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "My company is prepared to offer $2 million above market value. Personally, I can arrange an additional compensation package for you. Relocation, salary increase, whatever you need. And what I need," she said, her voice steady but edged with steel, "is for you to understand that money doesn't replace purpose." He studied her face, expecting hesitation, calculation, something. Instead, he found conviction. "You're being emotional," he said, "and you're being arrogant." Silence stretched between them. Harrison Whitmore was accustomed to boardrooms where men nodded before he finished speaking. Investors waited for his approval. Yet here stood a woman in a community center, telling him no without a tremor in her voice. "You're standing in the way of progress," he said sharply. Amara stepped closer, closing the distance so that he could see the fire in her eyes. "No, I'm standing in the way of displacement. There's a difference." Down the hallway, a little boy's voice called, "Dr. Bennett?" She glanced toward the sound and then back at Harrison. "This conversation is over." She picked up the contract, slid it back across the table, and walked out to answer the child, leaving the most powerful real estate developer in Atlanta staring at unsigned papers. No one had walked away from him like that. He stood there for several seconds, the hum of the old ceiling fan filling the room. His assistant, Mark, cleared his throat near the doorway. "Sir." Harrison picked up the contract slowly. "Schedule another meeting," he said. "This isn't over." As he stepped outside, the warm Georgia air hit him. Across the parking lot, teenagers were playing basketball. One tripped, and Amara jogged over, crouching to check on him, her hand gentle on his shoulder. Harrison watched her laugh at something the boy said, watched the way kids gravitated toward her. He told himself it didn't matter. The land was prime property in a rapidly developing corridor. Whitmore Urban Development had permits for a luxury tech campus. The Horizon Youth Center was the final obstacle, and obstacles were meant to be removed. That evening, Harrison stood in his penthouse office overlooking Atlanta. He loosened his tie and replayed the meeting in his mind. "It's not for sale." The words irritated him more than they should have. Mark stepped in holding a tablet. "The board wants confirmation that the acquisition will close this quarter." "It will," Harrison replied automatically. "They're concerned about delays." "There won't be delays." Mark hesitated. "Sir, if negotiations fail, we can initiate eminent domain proceedings through the city." Harrison's fingers tapped against the glass desk. Legally, he could force the sale. It would take months, but the outcome would be inevitable. He nodded slowly. "Prepare the paperwork." "But hold it for now." Mark looked surprised. "Hold it. I want another conversation with Dr. Bennett." The next afternoon, Harrison returned to the youth center unannounced. Amara was in a classroom filled with teenagers seated in a circle. On a whiteboard behind her were the words, "Conflict Resolution Workshop." He stood quietly at the door until she noticed him. Her brows lifted slightly, but she continued speaking. "When someone disrespects you, you have choices. You can react, or you can respond. Reacting is about pride. Responding is about growth." A teenage girl raised her hand. "But what if they think they're better than you?" Amara smiled gently. Then you don't let their opinion define your worth. Her eyes flicked toward Harrison for just a second. The girl glanced at him too. Like him. A few students snickered. Harrison straightened and used to being the subject of open judgment. Amara stepped forward. Class dismissed for 10 minutes. The teens filed out, whispering and throwing curious looks at him. When they were alone, she crossed her arms. You don't have an appointment. I wanted to see the center in action. And he glanced around. Old desks, worn carpet. You do good work. That's not a compliment that buys land. You're making this difficult. She stepped closer. You're just not used to hearing no. You don't know me, he said quietly. I know men who think power means control. And what do you think power means? Responsibility. A little boy ran in. Dr. Bennett, I finished my homework. Amara beamed, kneeling to praise his work. The boy looked up at Harrison. Are you the guy trying to take our building? Harrison froze. Jamal, that's not polite, Amara said. It's okay. Harrison crouched to the boy's level. I'm talking with Dr. Bennett about some plans. Jamal frowned. My mom says rich people don't care about us. The words hit harder than any boardroom accusation. I care about building things, Harrison said. Amara stood. We're already building something. Their eyes locked. Harrison left and drove around the neighborhood. Small houses, corner stores, children walking home. This wasn't just land on a blueprint. It was woven into lives. That night, he stared at his late grandfather's photograph. Charles Whitmore had built the family fortune investing in communities before luxury. Progress requires sacrifice, Harrison muttered. But whose sacrifice? His phone buzzed. Amara. He answered. Dr. Bennett, you left something behind. A question. What question? Why does this matter to you so much? Her voice was calmer now. It's business. Then why didn't you file the legal paperwork today? Silence. If you're going to fight me, at least be honest about why. I don't like losing. Brief pause. I don't like watching kids lose their only safe space. The line went quiet. Dinner, he said abruptly. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. Let's talk without contracts. She laughed softly. You think this is a date? I think it's a conversation. Pause. I'll meet you. But understand something, Mr. Whitmore. What? I'm not impressed by your money. The call ended, leaving Harrison staring at his reflection. He wasn't sure whether he felt challenged, irritated, or intrigued. Maybe all three. But one thing was certain. This wasn't business anymore. Harrison arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes early, something he never did. The Southern Bistro Amara chose was cozy, warm lighting, the scent of butter and garlic wrapping around him. When Amara walked in wearing a deep blue wrap dress and simple gold hoops, he smoothed his jacket unconsciously. Her confidence needed no embellishment. You clean up well, she said, taking her seat. So do you. They ordered sweet tea for her, sparkling water for him. Amara folded her hands. Let's be clear. I'm here to understand your position, not to be persuaded. Fair. Why that land? It's strategically located. My company wants to create jobs, attract tech investment. That campus would bring hundreds of positions. And how many would go to families in that neighborhood? He hesitated. That depends on qualifications. So probably not many. You're assuming the worst of me. I'm protecting my community. The food arrived. He watched her bow her head before eating. A small prayer. Why are you so committed? He asked. She set down her fork. When I was 12, my father died. My mother worked 2 jobs. The Horizon Youth Center kept me safe. A counselor there pushed me toward college. That building is the reason I became Dr. Bennett. Emotion shimmered beneath her steady voice. So when you walk in with contracts and numbers, you're talking about erasing something that saved me. He absorbed her words slowly. I didn't know. You didn't ask. The honesty stung. My grandfather used to tell me, build something that outlives you. I thought he meant buildings. And now, I'm not sure. Then maybe that's your real problem. They ate in thoughtful silence. If you'd grown up in that neighborhood instead of Buckhead, would you see this differently? She asked. He considered honestly. Yes. She nodded. That's growth. He smiled faintly. You're very direct. I don't have time for games. She laughed softly. Everything about you is a game, Mr. Whitmore. Winning deals. Outmaneuvering competitors. Even this dinner. You think I'm strategizing? I think you don't know how not to. Her insight unsettled him because it was accurate. Outside, she studied him beneath the streetlights. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A villain. And what am I? A man who doesn't understand the impact of his power. He exhaled slowly. That's not better. It's fixable. Over the next week, Harrison returned to the youth center repeatedly. You're becoming a regular, Amara observed as he watched a robotics class. I'm evaluating the asset. She gave him a look. They're children, not assets. He cleared his throat. Old habits. A teenage boy approached. You really own all those buildings downtown? Yes. That's crazy. I like engineering, but that stuff's expensive. How expensive? The boy shrugged. Too expensive. That evening, Harrison reviewed the center's financial records. Budget deficits. Outdated equipment. Grants barely covering costs. The next day, a delivery truck arrived with new laptops and robotics equipment. Amara found Harrison near the entrance as volunteers unloaded boxes. What is this? She demanded. Donation. Her expression hardened. We don't take bribes. It's not a bribe. It feels like one. He stepped closer. I'm not asking for anything in return. She searched his face. You can't buy goodwill. I'm not trying to buy it. Then why? Because that kid shouldn't think equipment is out of reach. Her posture softened slightly. If you think this changes my answer, it doesn't have to. Over the following days, something shifted. He stayed to help set up computers. He asked questions. He listened. One evening, he found Amara alone reviewing paperwork. You look exhausted. She sighed. Grant deadlines. If funding were stable, would you expand? She looked up sharply. Are you negotiating again? No. She leaned back. Yes. We'd expand mental health services. College prep. Job placement. He nodded thoughtfully. Harrison. He looked at her, surprised she'd used his first name. If you help us, it has to be because you believe in it, not because you're trying to win me over. He held her gaze. What if I'm not sure which it is yet? She smiled faintly. Then figure it out before you act. That night, Harrison walked through his penthouse, impressive and empty. His phone buzzed with a bored reminder about the acquisition deadline. He opened the redevelopment plans. Glass towers, investor projections, then the youth center's mission statement. Empower, protect, inspire. The next morning, the board meeting was tense. We can't delay indefinitely, an investor snapped. The land is critical. I'm aware. Then proceed. I need more time. Time for what? For community assessment. Murmurs filled the room. This is business, Harrison. It's also reputation. Forcing a youth center out would generate backlash. That's manageable. He clenched his jaw. I said I need time. After the meeting, Mark approached. You're risking investor confidence. I know. Is this about Dr. Bennett? Harrison shot him a warning look. It's about long-term impact. But as he drove to the center, he knew it was also about her. He found her supervising kids planting flowers. Back again, I keep showing up. He knelt beside a little girl, adjusting her shovel grip. Amara watched carefully. After the kids went inside, she stepped closer. You're confusing me. Good or bad? I'm not sure. He studied her face. I'm confusing myself. She allowed a soft breath. That's honest. He stepped closer, noticing the faint scent of vanilla. Amara, if I walked away from the project, what would that change? Her eyes widened. Everything. The weight settled between them. He wasn't used to decisions that affected his own heart, and he was beginning to realize that this one would. Enjoying the story so far? Make sure you subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of the adventure. The rain came down in sheets the night. Everything shifted. Harrison stood at his office windows, lightning cutting across the Atlanta sky. His phone buzzed with emails from investors. Subject line after subject line. Acquisition delay concerns. Urgent. Board vote. Market reaction. He dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Granddad's Foundation. An older woman answered. This is Harrison Whitmore. I need archive donation records connected to the Horizon Youth Center. One moment. She returned minutes later. Yes, Mr. Whitmore. In 1998 and 2001, Charles Whitmore donated anonymously to a youth development program under that name. Harrison closed his eyes briefly. Do we have letters attached to those donations? Yes. They're scanned in our system. Send them to me. The email arrived minutes later. The letter was handwritten. We build towers because they are visible, but the real measure of a man is what he builds in people who can't repay him. Another line caught his eye. Never let profit blind you to purpose. Thunder cracked outside. The next morning, he drove straight to the youth center. Amara was in her office when he knocked. You look like you didn't sleep. I didn't. What happened? He placed the letter on her desk. My grandfather donated to this center. Twice. She picked it up, scanning the handwriting. Her eyes softened. I remember hearing about anonymous donors years ago. He believed in places like this. And you didn't? I believe in expansion, growth, numbers. He let out a short breath. I told myself that was enough. She looked at him quietly. And now, I'm starting to think I've been measuring success the wrong way. Silence settled between them, but it wasn't hostile this time. Harrison, she said gently, what are you really afraid of? He looked up sharply. Afraid? Yes. He hesitated. Losing control. She nodded as if she'd expected that answer. Control feels safe. It is safe. Not always, she replied softly. He leaned forward. If I cancel this project, I lose millions. Investors lose confidence. My board might force me out. And if you don't, he imagined Jamal's face. The robotics class. The flowers along the fence. I'll lose something else, he admitted. Her voice lowered. Then the question is simple. What matters more? He studied her, emotion rising unexpectedly in his chest. You matter, he said before he could stop himself. Her breath caught slightly. This isn't just about land anymore, he continued. You challenge me. You see through me. I don't know what to do with that. Amara stood slowly. Don't confuse attraction with transformation. I'm not. She stepped closer. Harrison, if you choose the right thing, it has to be because it's right, not because of me. He nodded, understanding the line she was drawing. That afternoon, he called an emergency board meeting. The tension in the conference room was thick. I've made a decision, Harrison began. The chairman leaned forward. We're proceeding with eminent domain. No. Silence. I'm canceling the luxury campus project. The room erupted. Are you out of your mind? One investor snapped. That land is critical to our 5-year strategy. Harrison raised his hand. We will redirect funds into mixed income development in another district, and I will establish a community investment initiative. You're jeopardizing shareholder value. I'm protecting brand integrity, Harrison replied. Forcing out a youth center would damage this company more than a delayed project. That's speculation. It's leadership. The chairman's eyes narrowed. This could cost you your position. Harrison held his gaze. If that's the price, so be it. The vote was tense, but his authority as majority shareholder carried weight. The project was officially terminated. When the meeting ended, Mark approached him slowly. You just walked away from at least $30 million in projected profit. I know. Was it worth it? I think it will be, he said finally. He didn't call Amara. He didn't text. Instead, he arranged something else. 3 weeks later, scaffolding surrounded the Horizon Youth Center. New roofing materials were delivered. Contractors arrived. Windows were replaced. The parking lot was repaved. Amara stood outside, stunned, as a foreman handed her renovation plans. This can't be real, she murmured. Harrison walked up behind her, hands in his coat pockets. It's real, he said. She turned sharply. You canceled the project? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want it to feel transactional. Her eyes searched his face. You lost money. I'll survive. She looked at the construction crews bustling around them. This is millions of dollars. It's an investment. In what? He stepped closer, his voice steady. In something that outlives me. Emotion filled her eyes, but she kept her composure. Harrison, this is huge. I know. She shook her head slightly. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to. Their eyes locked, and the world around them seemed to quiet. You really changed your mind, she said softly. He gave a small smile. You changed it. She stepped back gently. No, you changed it. That evening, after the crews left, they walked through the partially renovated building together. Fresh paint brightened the hallways. New light fixtures cast a warm glow. "It's beautiful," she whispered. He watched her instead of the walls. "It will be." They stopped in the main multi-purpose room where their first confrontation had happened. "Do you remember what you said to me?" she asked. "Which part?" "That I was standing in the way of progress." He exhaled lightly. "I was wrong." She turned to face him fully. "This means more than you know. I'm starting to understand that." The air between them shifted again, softer now, charged with something unspoken. "Harrison," she said quietly, "why me?" He hesitated only briefly. "Because you don't bend. Because you care without apology. Because you make me question the kind of man I am." Her breath trembled slightly. "That's a lot of pressure." "It's not pressure," he said gently. "It's gratitude." She searched his eyes, looking for ego, manipulation, hidden motives. She found sincerity. "You scare me," she admitted. He frowned. "What?" "Because if this isn't real, if you decide profit matters more again, I'll have let you close." He stepped forward, closing the space gently. "I'm not walking away." She looked down briefly, then back up. "You don't get to promise that lightly," she whispered. "I'm not promising lightly." The distance between them was barely inches now. "You're not the man who walked into this building weeks ago," she said. "No," he agreed softly. "I'm not." Her hand brushed his chest, tentative but intentional. "Then prove it," she murmured. He didn't hesitate. He cupped her face gently and kissed her. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't possessive. It was careful, intentional, warm. When they finally pulled apart, her eyes were shining. "This complicates everything," she breathed. He smiled faintly. "Worth it." She smiled back, emotion and relief mixing together. "Yes," she whispered. And outside, under the glow of new lights illuminating the renovated building, something far greater than a real estate deal had begun to take shape. Renovations moved quickly, but word traveled even faster. By the time the Horizon Youth Center reopened its doors to a freshly painted lobby and brand new classrooms, the neighborhood was buzzing. Parents stopped Harrison on the sidewalk to shake his hand. Teenagers who once eyed him with suspicion now nodded in cautious respect. Still, not everyone was pleased. "Your approval ratings are dipping," Mark warned one afternoon, standing in Harrison's office with a tablet in hand. "Some investors are calling this a reckless, emotional pivot." Harrison skimmed the headlines. "Whitmore abandons major development. CEO risks millions on community gamble." "Let them talk," he said calmly. Mark studied him. "You've changed." Harrison gave a faint smile. "I'm evolving." "And Dr. Bennett?" Harrison didn't answer directly. "Schedule the press conference for next month." That evening, he found Amara in the new counseling wing, reviewing intake forms. "You're going to burn yourself out," he said gently. She glanced up and smiled. "That's rich coming from you." He leaned against the doorway. "Touché." She walked over to him, brushing invisible dust from his jacket lapel. The gesture was intimate, natural now. "I heard about the press," she said. "It was inevitable. Does it bother you?" He shrugged slightly. "It used to. I cared about perception more than substance. And now I care about whether Jamal gets into college." She laughed softly. "You've gotten attached." "Maybe." Her expression softened. "The kids notice, you know." "Notice what?" "That you show up. Not with cameras. Not with speeches. Just present." He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "You were right about responsibility." She squeezed gently. "You listened." They walked through the hallway together, pausing to watch a group of teenagers using the new computer lab. "You didn't just renovate a building," she said quietly. "You restored hope." He shook his head. "You did that years ago. I just funded it." She turned to face him fully. "Harrison, stop minimizing what you've done." He looked down at her, emotion flickering in his eyes. "I'm not used to being thanked for something that doesn't generate profit." "Get used to it," she teased. He smiled, then grew serious. "Amara, where is this going?" Her heart skipped, though she kept her composure. "Where do you want it to go?" "With you," he answered without hesitation. She searched his face carefully. "This isn't just attraction." "No." "It's not rebellion against your old self." "No." "It's not guilt." He stepped closer. "It's respect. It's admiration. It's—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. It's the way I feel when you look at me like I'm capable of being better. Her eyes glistened slightly. You are capable, she whispered. He cupped her cheek. I don't want this to be temporary. She exhaled slowly. Harrison, our worlds are different. They don't have to stay that way. You grew up in privilege. I grew up fighting for space. That difference doesn't disappear because we care about each other. I know, he said, and I'm not pretending to understand every part of your experience, but I'm willing to learn. She studied him carefully. Learning means listening when it's uncomfortable. I can handle uncomfortable. She smiled faintly. You say that now. I'm serious. So am I. There was a long pause filled with vulnerability. I don't want to be your project, she said softly, and I don't want to be your redemption story. You're neither, he replied immediately. You're my partner. The word lingered between them. She felt her defenses soften further. Partner, she repeated quietly. He leaned down, pressing his forehead against hers. Let me show you I mean that. Over the next few weeks, he did exactly that. He attended community meetings without dominating them. He funded scholarships anonymously. He hired local contractors for other developments. He sat beside Amara during workshops, sometimes just listening. One night, after a long day, they sat on the center's front steps watching the sunset paint the sky pink and orange. You know, she said, nudging him lightly, when you first walked in here, I thought you were insufferable. He chuckled. You told me I was arrogant. You were. Past tense. Mostly. He placed a hand dramatically over his chest. Progress. She laughed, the sound warm and unguarded. He grew quiet after a moment. My parents don't understand. About the center? About you. Her smile faded slightly. What do they say? They think I'm being impulsive. And are you? No, he turned to her. I've never been more certain about anything. She held his gaze. This isn't easy for you. Nothing worthwhile is. She nodded slowly. My mother had questions too. About me? Yes. He exhaled. Fair. She asked if you truly see me. Not just as a strong woman, not just as someone who challenged you, but as a black woman with a lived reality you can't fully share. And what did you tell her? I told her you're trying. He reached for her hand again. I will always try. She squeezed his fingers gently. That's all I need. A week later, Harrison invited her to a formal charity gala his company hosted annually. She hesitated at first. That's your world. It can be ours, he said. The night of the event, she stepped into the ballroom wearing an elegant deep burgundy gown. Conversation slowed as people noticed her at his side. You look breathtaking, he whispered. You clean up well too, she replied playfully. Throughout the evening, he introduced her proudly. This is Dr. Amara Bennett, director of the Horizon Youth Center. Not once did he downplay her title. Not once did he treat her like an accessory. During his speech, he surprised everyone. This year, he announced to the crowd, Whitmore Urban Development is launching a permanent community investment fund focused on youth empowerment and education. Murmurs filled the room. And I owe that vision, he continued, glancing at Amara, to someone who reminded me that leadership without compassion is incomplete. Applause erupted. Amara blinked back tears. Later, in a quiet corner of the ballroom, she turned to him. You didn't have to mention me. I wanted to. She placed her hand over his heart. You've grown. He smiled softly. Because you refused to sell. She leaned up and kissed him gently, uncaring who saw. As they left the gala hand in hand, Harrison felt something deeper than pride. He felt alignment. He wasn't choosing between business and love anymore. He was building both differently. And he knew, with growing certainty, that this wasn't just a chapter. It was the foundation of something permanent. 6 months later, the Horizon Youth Center stood brighter than it ever had. Fresh murals painted by local artists covered the outer walls. The computer lab buzzed daily. A new counseling wing offered private sessions for teens navigating grief, anxiety, and pressure. Scholarship applications lined Amara's desk. And Harrison Whitmore was no longer the man who had once walked in demanding signatures. He stood backstage in the multipurpose hall, adjusting his tie while listening to the hum of a packed room beyond the curtain. Are you pacing? Mark asked quietly. I'm thinking, Harrison replied. You're pacing. Harrison exhaled slowly. It has to be right. It will be, Mark said. You don't do anything halfway. Tonight was the official grand reopening celebration. Community leaders, parents, business owners, and media filled the room. The event marked not just renovation, but the launch of the Whitmore Community Initiative Fund, an ongoing commitment to youth programs across the city. But Harrison had another plan. Across the hall, Amara stood near the stage entrance, greeting families as they arrived. She wore a soft, ivory dress that flowed gently around her, her curls styled elegantly around her shoulders. She looked radiant, confident, warm, grounded. She caught his eye across the room. He felt that steady pull again, the one that had shifted his priorities, rearranged his ambition, deepened his understanding. She walked over. You're quiet. Big night, he replied. You've done something incredible, she said softly. The community sees it. I see it. He reached for her hand. I couldn't have done it without you. You chose it, because you showed me what mattered. She smiled gently. You give me too much credit. Not enough, he said. A volunteer stepped in. Dr. Bennett, we're ready to start. She squeezed his hand once before stepping toward the stage. Harrison moved to the side curtain, watching her through the gap as she approached the podium. Applause erupted. She began with grace and strength. 6 months ago, this building faced an uncertain future. Today, it stands stronger than ever, not because of one person, but because of collective belief. Belief that our children deserve investment. Belief that community matters. Her voice carried through the hall, confident yet emotional. Harrison felt pride swell in his chest. Not ownership, but admiration. She invited several students to speak. Jamal was one of them. When I thought this place might close, Jamal said into the microphone, I felt like nobody cared. But now we've got new computers, new classes, and Mr. Whitmore even helped me fill out a college program application. The audience laughed warmly. Harrison rubbed the back of his neck, humbled. After the student speakers, Amara returned to the podium. There's someone I need to acknowledge, she said. When faced with a difficult decision, he chose purpose over profit. He listened. He learned. And because of that, hundreds of kids will have opportunities they might not have had otherwise. She looked toward the curtain. Harrison Whitmore. The applause was thunderous. He stepped onto the stage, nodding politely. He took the microphone. Thank you. But this center was thriving long before I got involved. Dr. Bennett built something extraordinary. I simply had the privilege of supporting it. He glanced at her, and their eyes met. There's one more thing, he continued. Amara tilted her head slightly, curious. He reached into his jacket pocket. The room quieted as he turned fully toward her. Amara. Her breath caught softly. You once told me that power means responsibility. You were right. You also taught me that love isn't about control, it's about commitment. Commitment to growth. Commitment to listening. Commitment to standing beside someone, not above them. Murmurs filled the room. He stepped closer. When I walked into this building, I thought I was negotiating land. What I found was a woman whose strength, compassion, and integrity reshaped my understanding of what it means to lead and what it means to love. Her eyes shimmered, hands trembling slightly at her sides. You didn't just challenge me, he said. You changed me, not by asking me to be different, but by refusing to lower your standards. A few people in the audience wiped tears. He lowered himself onto one knee. Gasps rippled through the hall. Dr. Amara Bennett, he said, voice steady but filled with emotion. Will you build a life with me? Will you continue to challenge me, stand with me, and let me stand with you? Not as a project, not as a rescue, but as partners. Silence hung in the air for a heartbeat that felt endless. Amara covered her mouth, tears slipping freely now. He opened the small velvet box, revealing a simple yet elegant ring. No excessive flash, just timeless beauty. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. You didn't have to do this publicly. I wanted the world to know I choose you, he replied softly. She laughed through tears. You are unbelievable. Is that a yes? He asked gently. She dropped to her knees in front of him, ignoring the crowd. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes, Harrison. The room erupted in applause and cheers. He slid the ring onto her finger, standing as she threw her arms around him. He held her tightly, aware of cameras flashing, but focused only on the woman in his arms. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. "You really did change," she murmured. He smiled softly. "Because you said no." She laughed, wiping her cheeks. "Best decision I ever made." He kissed her gently, not rushed, not for show, just them. As the celebration continued, music playing and people congratulating them, Harrison stepped back for a moment, watching her surrounded by kids hugging her, showing off the ring. Jamal ran up to him. "You're going to be Dr. Bennett's husband?" Harrison smiled. "That's the plan." "That's cool," Jamal said proudly. Harrison glanced around the room. The bright walls, the laughter, the hope. He had built towers that scraped the sky. But this felt higher. Amara walked back to him, slipping her hand into his. "Ready for this new chapter?" she asked. "With you," he replied. "Absolutely." She leaned into him as the crowd continued celebrating. And in the place where she had once stood firm and refused to sell, they began building something far greater than either of them had imagined. Not just a center, not just a company, but a life together. If you felt anything while listening to this story, if it made your heart race, made you smile, or reminded you that real love still exists, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button to support the channel, subscribe so you never miss a new romance story, and turn on notifications to stay close to every heartbeat, every twist, every unforgettable love. And I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Your city, your country, your corner of the world. Your support helps this channel grow, and your comments inspire the next love story.